They haven't done.
Do the pledge of allegiance, I guess. After me, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so you have an agenda in front of you there. So, the agenda items are, we have some updates from COCC, so we met with them, that was really positive, and then we have a few offerings that we're gonna offer next year and some things we're considering. Update on the resources for families, the main one was the score comparison for the students that were taking the AP training and those that didn't, and kind of see what the differences are, because we talked about it before, but we're on trimesters and how that
Right.
impacts us, and then, and that's pretty much it. So, first, our meeting with COCC, they've worked really hard to become more user-friendly for us, because we've had input from parents like yourself and other parents that have had a lot of difficulty with the payment system and the communication behind, what steps they need to take. So they have an email template that goes out when a student registers. And then there's a letter that gets emailed out when there's an account balance. So those are things that they never did before that seem to be helping now. They have grant funding. So some other things that they provided, that they let us know about, was there's some grant funding for their College Now courses. So students on free and reduced lunch. And these are mostly CTE courses, but there's a few other ones. But students that are on free and reduced lunch are eligible for that grant, so they can get some of their tuition paid for. And the other ones that aren't CTE courses, so Writing 121, Math 105, and Math 111 could all be paid for through that grant. So that was new information from them. Oh, another thing that they talked about was improving the ability for teachers to become eligible to articulate with them. So in other words, when we have a turnover in teachers, the process for getting a teacher to be able to articulate with COCC seemed to be a little bit burdensome, and so they're really trying to streamline that process. So if we do, like in Crook County, sometimes we don't have a teacher. We might have a teacher that articulates with COCC through an AP class, and then that teacher leaves. And then we hire somebody new and they have to go through this whole rigmarole to be able to articulate that classes. They're trying to streamline that process, so it makes it easier for us to have new hires, as long as they have the right qualifications and do the training to articulate for that class. So that's been helpful.
So at one point, Michelle was working with them. It would be a very long-term thing, but to try and get some better alignment between the bell schedule at high school and the bell schedule at
Yep.
COCC, so we could have students transfer to take classes at the center. Did
It's still not perfect. We have a Math 105 class that I believe COCC has a professor that can come over and be a part of that, but we're still not to the point where we can go over there yet. So they can come over and help us,
Mhm.
but we're not to the point with our bell schedule where kids can go over there.
Is that
seamlessly.
because they just won't, or change their bill schedule, or what's?
I think it's less, theirs is set and the times are different a little bit, and so it just doesn't hit perfect.
Well, and the issue being, they could change their bell schedule to Prineville, but that would mess them up because they want to stay in the same institutionally, even though there's no reason for them to do that.
Right,
So that's still an issue.
still an issue,
I'll rate that with their board member.
great. I think that's it for the COCC update. Did you say Bree was on?
Yes.
If she wants to comment, like if I'm missing something, I'm sure she's like watching me closely and saying that I'm making sure I'm not missing anything, but I think that's pretty much for the pretty much everything for the COCC updates. We talked about a couple of when we're talking about our AP classes. We have some AP classes that are gonna articulate for dual credit next year that didn't this year. So one of them is AP Government. So we have AP Government, that's been approved through COCC to now see dual credit. AP Lit and Comp, that one's in progress. So that's our junior English, AP Lit and Comp. We're working on getting that one to articulate for college credit as well. And then one other one, was, right now we have honors biology, and that's given to a lot of freshmen, and that articulates through EOU. And EOU has come back and said, hey, we need to make this class, more for upperclassmen, and so we're considering moving that honors biology and making it into an AP biology, where then it can articulate through EOU. It already articulates through EOU, but we're looking at making that into more of an AP class for upperclassmen. And then there's some health science courses that we're in the progress of trying to articulate as well through John Scour, our athletic trainer. We had at one point, we had like a medical criminology class and a couple other ones. And so we're trying to get that and first aid and some of those articulate.
Do the culinary classes articulate?
Yes, they do. So those are some of the new offerings that we have. I think that's it on those.
So we talked about adding the two popular AP classes that we don't have, psychology.
AP
one other,
psychology.
Economics, I think was the other one, I can't remember.
I don't remember economics. I do remember psychology.
Psychology was definitely in there, there
Yeah.
was one other one that was in the top 10.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'll find out.
Psych is easy, I mean, I don't know if we have an economics class, but,
Psych is easy to articulate.
well, I mean, we've offered psych on and off.
Mhm.
If we had a faculty member that was interested for 40 years. So, you know, I don't know whether we have anybody who's interested, but it wouldn't.
I think
one of the more difficult.
Mr. Booster has taught psychology before. I bet he'd be interested, but I'll look into that.
It's low hanging fruit.
Yeah. What other updates? So resources for families on here. One thing we're gonna do is we're gonna bring like for open house, not for open house, for fall conferences, we're gonna bring COCC in. And one of the things that we've gotten on like our parent feedback forms and stuff is when we have conferences, we have that student support day where students with Ds and Fs must come. We need to have more. We need to be more proactive in how we communicate with some of these students that are taking AP courses. And in other words, we have to be more active in trying to engage students for enrichment and for support, you know, especially the kids in the spring that are really involved in sports and different activities. They feel like they're getting overwhelmed because they're still taking some of these harder classes. And so that's something that we're looking at doing. We're gonna communicate it a little bit better this spring, but then next fall as well, just trying to make it so it's not just about the students that are, we're talking about conference times.
Right, but, I mean, what do they want us to do? Just provide more mental health support?
No, I think it's just like encourage those kids to come in more for support. You know,
Cause they get
I-
behind?
yes, I think what we've heard from some parents is there's not enough focus on providing resources for the students that are accessing like a lot of tough classes. And let's say someone's doing golf and they're doing ASB and they're doing Young Life and they're doing culinary all at the same time.
Killer junior year.
Right, and then they're trying to also keep a really high GPA. What are we doing for them? So at least what the impression that parents are getting is, you know, we're doing a lot for these students that aren't doing well. What are we doing for these other students that are doing really well, but they're still struggling? And so that's something that we really need to think about. How are we gonna support those?
No, maybe the other question is, what are we doing to them? Because we've set up this system that puts all that pressure on them, because we know what we've done. We
Yeah,
know what they're gonna experience, and we repeat it year after year. And maybe we should look at the root cause of all that,
and we don't get involved in as much.
or move some of the AP classes backwards and not put so much concentration in that junior year. We
Oh.
put so much into that junior year.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Why do we have so
Yeah,
little the rest of the time? And only that one year I mean, if you're on a college track, you're gonna have 5 AP classes your junior year. That's a lot.
so you're saying you think that might be specific to Crook County?
I wonder, I don't know,
Yeah, I don't know either.
but the AP's available your sophomore year, it's available your senior year, why do we put so much into
Sure.
the junior year?
Yeah, I don't know the answer. That's a good question. Everybody knows, at least it's gone here. The junior years,
brace yourself.
yeah, everyone knows, I mean,
Long year.
yeah, I don't even have kids in high school yet, and I know that, I just know. So,
And maybe part of that too is at the beginning of the year, setting up expectations with parents who don't engage at the beginning of the year
mhm.
about this is what your kid's year is gonna be like, and this is what you're gonna need to do in order to support that
Mhm.
kid. It's gonna be a tough year. Parents who manage to that will do better than parents who find themselves in the middle of it. Takes you a year to figure out what you wish you'd done.
The next, oh. So if you look up here, these are the score comparisons for the students, so. The number of students that took an AP support class, the number of students that, didn't take an AP support class, but still took the AP test, you'll notice there's not a very big
Nope.
difference in scores. And so of course that makes us think, okay. And maybe we need to give it a couple more years, maybe we need to give, I think there's 34 kids right now enrolled in an AP support class, this trimester. An AP test, it's called AP test prep, there's 34 kids in there, so maybe we need to wait and see what that round of. How that round of students do on the AP tests, but. To me. A 0.04 difference doesn't seem like it's,
Is that one class for all AP courses or multiple classes?
so if you look on the left over there, it's the AP support type.
Mhm.
So there's some students that just went like. We looped in AP support class, there was AP test prep, which there's 34 kids in that this year. The advanced chem, there was some students doing early bird class with Mr. Lowenbach. And then of course, there's the ones that did both, 5 of them did both the advanced chem and the AP test prep.
I would have to run one class for 3 kids.
Well, he did it as an early bird, so he didn't, it
Um,
didn't take up an entire section.
there's,
He still had-
there's a substantial difference, it looks like, whenever you have a single subject class.
Yeah, the only thing that you have to think about too is the individual that did that as well. I mean,
Self-selection bias.
yeah,
But is that right?
The one thing to know about the class that Jeff offers in the morning, that early bird, the students that actually sign up for that class, and some kids will go in and get support from him a couple days a week. But the kids that sign up for that class are also getting another round, they're getting a lab credit for college credit. So they have to like really commit to that if they're wanting that support. So we have some kids that aren't represented here that are getting some support from Jeff. And then the only thing I'd say about this is like, yeah, like when I first looked at it, like you don't see a big difference in the numbers, but I think without that, you might see a bigger difference. Because we do know that from talking to these students and from doing like some empathy interviews we've done in the past, that the kids feel supported by Heather's class and by Jeff's opportunity in the morning, that they do really enjoy it and appreciate that continuation of learning with AP into the 3rd trimester because of our trimester setting. So that's the only thing I'd add there is like, even though it's not a huge, like, oh my gosh, kids score so much better. I do think that if you talk to the kids anecdotally, you'll find that there's a need for it and that they like it. So yeah, I just thought I'd throw that out there.
You could say on average here that except for advanced chem, our students who are taking AP are not, on average, are not getting the benefit of the college credit as a result of that, because they're all below 3.
on average, yes.
How do we deal with that?
You know.
I mean, if we're gonna spend the time and the effort and the money, surely there ought to be an outcome. It's more common than not.
Well, I wonder if we disaggregated all the numbers and you saw like the number of students that actually got a college credit for it. Because some of those kids might have gotten a 4,
Right.
and so, I don't know, I wonder if there's, out of the 22, I wonder if is it 12, is that, what's enough to make it worth it for the number of students that have
Right.
college credit? I don't know
Well,
what that
I mean,
is.
this committee was started with the idea that a majority of students who take the AP ought to at least pass
Yep,
the AP exam, if at a minimal level.
yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, I mean, that was the whole reason we started this was to, I think it was better communication, it was. to align the dual credit and the AP, and then also to just perform better in the AP test, which is why we have the test prep class, but at least this sample, there wasn't a huge difference. I'm excited to see how this larger class does, this next round. Cause it's still kind of in its infancy, that AP test prep class.
One of the things we talked about early on with the AP teachers was a need for a better system of support for the teachers themselves, some time for them to meet, time to talk,
Yep.
to train. Although, did that ever happen?
Not formally, no. I don't
Go
think
back,
so.
I would suggest you go back to those early notes and look at them and see what they were asking for. There were a number of things we were excited about and said
I remember that.
we could,
We even talked about some before the year training.
right. Then chaos ensued.
Yeah.
But it would be worth revisiting that.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because they weren't unreasonable requests, as I recall.
No, they weren't. One thing not listed on here that we had talked about doing was telling the story of the AP and dual credit. We have that in the works. It's just not done yet, but we've been working with Jason on that, and so he has got students that he's gonna talk to, and I believe that's coming out. It's not done yet, and then,
Well, that was mainly about sharing with the community.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Savings in cost and time.
Yes,
That's that's interesting. That's had an unintended side effect I've noticed. I've been kind of following up with some of our seniors for the last few years. It's enabling them to go to college and take these limited schedules. They're not necessarily using it to get done early. They're using it to take like 12 hours. instead of
lighter
15.
loads.
Yeah, I'm universally seeing that pop up.
That's not necessarily a bad thing.
It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not really where I think we were focused.
No,
But it's an interesting approach.
yeah,
I mean, I never remember taking less than 5, sometimes 6 classes. And these kids are taking 3 or 4 sometimes.
I think you and I had a different college experience, because I
Really?
remember taking 13 or 14 credits happily when I was competing and doing things.
Well, we always had 15 to 18. Well, because you wanted to get it done. That was the thing.
Yeah.
It had to get done in the 4 years.
Yeah.
That was the overriding theory in my head.
Yeah. And then the last thing, let me see, talk about this. There's one more thing I need to talk about. Oh, we do have some students that are willing to come in and talk and share their experiences. And so I don't know if we want to do that at, like I said, school board meeting, or you want to have another one of these meetings or.
You know, I like keeping the students.
Yeah, so we do have that in the works. Bree, are you still on there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Am I missing anything that we need to cover?
No. No, great job.
Just open it up for questions if you have questions, Scott, or if you think there's anything that Jessica might want to know that we didn't cover.
Can possibly imagine what Jessica might want to know.
Okay. Eric, as a tech guy, do you have any questions?
Yeah, the only concern I have is that just driving those, making sure we're getting value for money on those,
We're getting
and
outcomes.
supporting those teachers and.
Yep.
And that's what I was concerned about, same thing that I always say.
Okay. Well, we can definitely look into how we can, because I do remember that too, when I think you, me, Patty, when we first started this thing over 2 years ago, that was one of the things we talked about, was how are we gonna get our teachers some training and get them the resources they need.
Well, I remember coming into that meeting and being stunned at the end of it by how much they were wanting that and how strongly they felt about the need for better support. I
Yeah.
didn't have a pulse on that when we came into that meeting, but we opened Pandora's box. Now I feel a little bit badly we haven't a little bit more on it, but
Yeah,
there have been a few distracting things along.
there has been. And then some of the things that we talked about in that kind of evolved to, it kind of started to center around dual credit articulation. It started to center around communication about senior year. It kind of just like took a different turn. And then maybe some of the other stuff we didn't focus on.
It's still about 90-10 and between dual credit and AP, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
And what people are utilizing.
Mhm. Yep. Or more, probably more than that.
Where are we with CTE articulation? You said culinary is fully articulated.
Culinary articulates through COCC, a lot of the ag science classes articulate, business. I think what else? Graphic design now just now got articulated, right? Maria, I'm thinking about that. We just got that from Christy. Like I talked,
Spanish-
we're trying to add the health science stuff. What's that?
Kids get a lot of credit from Spanish, especially if they do the native speakers. I'm looking at our list, but I think you've covered it.
Yeah,
Can I tell you, Bree, that my daughter, to my absolute astonishment, not only got full credit for her Spanish at her university, they made her take a test to show her proficiency. I thought, well, that's the end of that. And she completely passed that test. They gave her all the credits that she came out of, despite having had rigorous exam. And now she's going to Chile this summer to go do Spanish immersion in medical something.
oh, awesome.
Oh,
But I
that's
mean,
amazing.
came out of Crook County education. I didn't know she could speak Spanish. I didn't think she could.
Hey,
I started to think we could teach it.
stick with us.
I couldn't believe it.
Well,
And that's-
congrats to her. That's amazing. And we'll let Chris know. We'll be excited about that.
Yeah, it was like, wow.
Might be a little bit around the student too.
Well, maybe, but she couldn't at least let me know she could speak. So one other question that I wanted to ask, because it does fit into the AP and senior opportunities. Where are we with facilitating kids' enrollment with Baker Academy?
I don't understand the question.
So if a kid is on the CTE track and wants to go take one of the heavy construction classes or something with Baker Academy. have we
Oh,
got that
okay.
Partnership work.
You're
yet?
talking about BTI.
Yeah.
I was thinking Baker Cass, thinking Baker Webb, and I
Oh,
was
sorry.
lost.
Probably used the wrong term.
Where are we with BTI?
Yeah.
We paid, that's a pretty big expense, and so when we had that extra funding for summer school dollars, that they had those extra summer school dollars, that's when we partnered with BTI. We still communicate with BTI, like, we actually tried to get, we didn't try, but we looked into the amount of money we had for summer school this year, because we were gonna try to pay for, but the school district incurs a lot of cost when we offer that BTI stuff for students. And we had the money to do that, so we went ahead and did it, because we thought that was a good use of our dollars, but we just don't have the funding for summer school to do that. So it's still a program that we advocate for and tell students about, but helping them with the cost of that program, we're not able
So
to.
they have to come up with their own
Yeah,
money on that?
I'd like to pay, we'd like to pay for it. I'm gonna get it wrong, but I think for the offerings that we had, which was less than 10 kids, it was like 30 grand.
Why couldn't we write a grant for that?
I don't think there's a reason we can't.
We got nobody to write a grant.
Right.
Well, how many kids went through that? I don't know.
I think we had 5 last year, and I think we had a few more the year before. That was the other thing too, was as awesome as that program was, it was a little bit difficult to find students that were willing to do it, because it is a big time commitment. And you think about the students that
Yeah, it's just the rest of your life.
would want that anyway. Those are the students that probably have a lucrative job in the summer that they could do, and so they have to like make the commitment and say, okay, I'm gonna do this. And in the end, it's worthwhile because of all the certifications they get, but Ryan Cochran was the one that recruited most of those kids, and it was a little bit more difficult than we had intended.
How much do we reliably count on year over year? Is it 2, 3, 6? If we were to have a program, if we were to fund BTI, how many kids could we
I bet you
pretty consistently count on?
5 probably.
Would they take a lot of work to go find those, or
Yeah.
would they just appear?
Some of them just appear.
What's the appear level?
I think it just varies from year to year. Last year it was difficult to find kids. I know that. The year before it wasn't as difficult. I think it would just vary from year to year, but I think consistently we could find 5 kids, whether it was difficult or not, and get those kids through with some pretty good certifications. I think heavy equipment operator's license, and You've seen them out there. I mean, I think you watched them out there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's pretty awesome watching them on all that equipment and
Well, we
using the
engaged them
simulator
because they were gonna come into the community anyway.
and, yes,
So we could either befriend them or fight them, so we befriended.
for
But
sure.
It's not sounding like there was much of a threat,
Not at all.
because if we couldn't find them, they were gonna have an even harder time finding them.
Yeah, I think so. And I think the high school age students is not maybe their primary population. I think it's like a little bit after high school and young adults is where they're getting most of their clientele, I would imagine.
How many Pioneer kids? Because
We've had 2 or 3.
I would think that would be a very key target population.
Yeah, I mean, we want those students. I think we had 2 or 3 over the last 2 years. That I can think of off the top of my head, and I can go back and look, but. We had a couple.
What's our percentage of kids that are going to college now?
It's not as high as I'd want it to be. 40 to 50 maybe,
I saw one year it was 7.
no, it's
So-
more than that.
40 to 50 is great.
Didn't you have,
That's many.
I just looked at
several
that
decades
number,
ago.
I just looked at that number not long ago.
The 40 is where.
I think it was in
my
the
head was.
40s.
And do
I
we
can
know what
find
our
out.
persistence rate is after the first year?
No,
Is there any way to get that? Probably not.
like how many kids stick with it?
Yeah, how many go back for a second year? Or do we just get them in and then lose them?
I
'cause
I know that's
it's-
something that Kelly has looked a lot into wanting to know that. And it's
This-
very
this-
difficult to find. It's not something that is as simple as it should be, unfortunately.
We should be able to track that. You have to go find it in the Department of Education system for your kids who went to Oregon schools only, because we only track in Oregon. And then you can pull their persistence rate in Oregon schools. If they transfer out of state or they start out of state, you've lost them.
Mhm.
in the system. But that's your test of how well you prepared them. It's not how many go, it's how many stay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
do
then-
know that's something that Kelly has, I believe she has worked on that and we'll look at it again for sure and try to see if we can get a number on that.
There's a way through ODE, it was.
I think a lot of us, a lot of our students go to COCC, but then
Right.
I don't know how, I think you're right, that not a ton of them.
It's like about 70-80% are going to COCC.
Yeah, but I mean, out of that 70 or 80%, I don't know how many get their associates or
Right.
that go a second year.
Yeah, or even a second semester.
I'd be
mean,
interested to,
I'd not only be interested in that, I'd be interested in breaking down my demographics, because what I have heard, you don't know if it's true, but what I've heard is our Hispanic kids in particular go into COCC and then don't persist. In part because they've got massive pull from their families to come back and join family businesses. And help out in whatever the family's trade is.
Mhm.
And that there's a big gap between the Anglo students and the Spanish students. That's all anecdotal, so I'd like to see the data on that.
Yeah,
That's certainly the state data, so I don't know why we'd be any different.
yeah, that'd be interesting to find out. Anything else, Bree?
I don't think so. I'm just trying to find that percentage because I was thinking it was around 40 as well for college. Looks like on our school report card from last year was 34% were college going.
Well, how's that compare to the state?
Oregon state average is 56.
Gap? That, and is that culture, is that money? That knowledge, that access?
I mean, also I think we have a pretty good population of students that go into trades as well that
I was
that might
gonna
not be capturing.
I don't wanna,
No, that
We-
won't pull, that trades won't pull into the college going data.
they won't, so in
No,
trades
because
will
they're not counted as college.
We do have a lot of, I mean, we're proud of it, I mean, but our CT offerings have grown a lot.
Right,
And so I think we do put an emphasis on the importance of trades and. You know, it's college and career, so maybe. And it's something we can look at.
So I'd say
You have more kids going into the trades right away.
it's a data piece I think we ought to be able to talk to the community about.
Yeah,
The percentage of kids who go to college and the percentage of kids who go to trade.
make sure you have both those
Is
numbers.
60, 70, whatever.
No, I think that's wise.
Otherwise, somebody will pop up with the 3456 number at a board meeting and we'll be going blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Okay,
I think our numbers, is that 22, 23 though?
Yeah,
So I think 24 is higher.
I think so too. But I do think we're always gonna be disproportionately impacted by our students going to trades, because I mean, we give lots of scholarships for that. We really encourage that with our CTE programs. So, yeah, we can look at those numbers though and report those back.
yeah, it's good to have them. All right, I don't need anything else. That's easy.
Awesome.
It was a overkill for a one-person meeting.
That's nice. You get a chance to ask questions. It's good. Not often you get to talk to me and Bree at one.
I know, it's kind of nice.
All right, anything else from anybody else? Thanks for jumping on, Bree. How's Tyler doing?
So good. He's just sleeping. Here, you can meet my.
I thought that was your mom.
He won't wake up. He'll just stay sleeping, but yeah, no, it was nice to think about some school stuff for a minute. Oh, it was a grunt. Thanks. But yeah, no, he's doing great. We're doing great. Good to see you
Good.
guys.
Yeah, thanks again for joining. See you later.
Okay.